Jorante had never expected that his life would change because of a single assignment. He was young, just 24, with a reputation in the Imperial Diplomatic Corps for being clever, adaptable, and most importantly, human. That last trait mattered more than he thought. Humans were unusual in the galaxy. Among countless alien species, humans were neither the strongest, nor the most intelligent, nor the most technologically advanced. Yet somehow, their stubbornness, creativity, and unpredictable thinking often tipped the balance in their favor. Yoran had learned this the hard way. He had been summoned to the Empress's private chambers one bright morning. The request was simple, or so it seemed. "Yoran," she said, her silver hair glinting like starlight, "you are to accompany my daughter, Princess Lysara, to the planet Veon. She is to attend a series of diplomatic meetings while under your protection. Think of it as babysitting." Babysitting a princess? Surely this was a joke. The galaxy was full of deadly politics, and the princess was one of the most valuable people in the Empire. Babysitting sounded trivial, but he knew better than to question the Empress. Every assignment she gave had a hidden purpose. "Yes, Your Majesty," Yoran said, bowing deeply. "I will ensure her safety." Lysara was waiting for him at the airship dock, her expression a mix of boredom and curiosity. She was 17, with hair like molten gold and eyes that seemed to see right through people. She carried herself like a young queen already, confident and sharp, though still playful enough to be underestimated by most adults. "Babysitter, huh?" she said, smirking as she walked toward him. "I hope you're not boring." "I get bored very easily." "I'm anything but boring," Yoran replied, though he hadn't proven it yet. The airship that would take them to Veon was sleek, faster than most ships humans had ever piloted. The interior smelled faintly of polished metal and something floral, a signature touch for royal comfort. Yoran found himself seated beside Lysara, who immediately opened a datapad filled with diplomatic codes, interstellar maps, and political intelligence. "I don't need you to tell me what to do," she said. "I can handle myself." "But I guess it might be fun to see what you can do." He was learning quickly. Lysara was clever, stubborn, and unpredictable. Exactly the kind of princess who could survive in the galaxy, but she would still need guidance if danger came. And danger, he realized, was coming sooner than expected. Their journey was quiet at first. The ship hummed through the void, stars streaking past in elongated lines. Joran glanced at the navigation console, then at Lysara. She was flipping through a book about alien cultures, her eyes flicking between text and the stars outside. "You're thinking about something?" she said suddenly. "I always think about something," Yoran replied. "Then think about keeping me alive," she teased, leaning back in her chair. The humor in her tone didn't hide the seriousness in her eyes. Yoran nodded, understanding that this mission was not just about comfort or diplomacy, it was about survival. Veon was nothing like their home planet. Its surface shimmered with strange minerals, rivers that reflected multiple suns, and forests filled with trees that moved slightly, as if breathing. The cities were towering constructs of crystal and steel, alien architecture that was both beautiful and disorienting. Humans were not common here. Yoran could feel alien eyes following them as they stepped from the ship. The moment they arrived at the palace, the first threat made itself clear. A small explosion rocked the landing pad, sending debris scattering. Aliens in dark uniforms were attempting to breach security. Joran's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Lysara, diving into a shadowed alley beside the palace. "Why are we running?" she asked, eyes wide but excited. "Because it's what humans do when danger arrives," Joran said calmly, pulling a small device from his pocket. Within moments, a field shimmered around them, invisible, but strong enough to deflect small attacks. Lysara's mouth opened in surprise. "You've prepared for this?" she asked, astonished.
I've prepared for everything humans can imagine, Yoran replied. Aliens, explosions, backstabbing nobles, and temperamental princesses. Lysara laughed, a short, bright sound, and then followed him as he led her through the twisting streets of Veon.
Every corner held a new threat, but Joran's mind worked like a machine. He noticed weak points in alien patrols, predicted their movements, and even improvised weapons from discarded tech around them. Each step forward was a small victory, and each victory reminded him why humans survived. Adaptability. Hours passed, and the palace they sought as their temporary refuge seemed endless. Lysara was impressed. "You really think like a human?" she said, as they paused to catch their breath. "You see the things nobody else sees, because humans have to." Yoran said simply, "In the galaxy, we are often outmatched, but we never stop thinking." She looked at him thoughtfully. For a moment, Yoran thought she might speak, but instead she simply nodded and followed him quietly. The bond between them began to grow. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. They were two minds working toward a single goal: survival. As night fell over Veon, the streets lit up with soft blue and green lights, and strange creatures prowled the edges of the city. Joran and Lysara hid in an abandoned tower, watching patrols move below. He explained the alien politics in simple terms, helping her understand who could be trusted and who could not. Lysara listened, asking questions that challenged his assumptions. "You think the conspirators are only here for the throne?" she asked. "Or is there more?" "Humans rarely see only one problem," Joran replied. "There's always more." The attack on the landing pad was only the beginning. Hidden factions within Veon's political elite had planned something bigger, something that could destabilize not just the local government, but the Empress's influence across the galaxy. And now, because Joran was human, he could anticipate moves the aliens themselves hadn't considered. By the time dawn crept over Veon, Joran and Lysara had formed a plan. They would navigate to the palace through secret routes, gather allies among the lesser-known factions, and uncover the full scope of the conspiracy. It was risky, dangerous, and entirely improvised, but Joran smiled. Humans thrived in exactly these situations. Lysara, who had been quiet most of the night, looked at him. "You're not boring at all," she said softly. "I might actually like having you around." Joran chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." For the first time since leaving their home planet, both of them felt a spark of hope. They were just two humans, or one human and one human-leaning princess, in a galaxy filled with danger. But together, they had a chance. Not just to survive, but to outsmart forces far stronger than themselves. And as the twin suns rose over Veon, casting golden light on the crystal towers below, Joran realized something important.
This assignment, this babysitting, would not just be about protecting a princess.
It would be about proving what humans were capable of, thinking, improvising, and surviving when every other species might fail. The adventure had only just begun. Joran and Lysara moved cautiously through Veon's twisting streets, the alien city alive with sounds and colors that were almost overwhelming. Every building shimmered like glass, and holographic advertisements flickered in languages Joran could barely decipher. Yet humans had a gift for noticing details others overlooked. Joran's eyes scanned every shadow, every flicker of movement, every slight change in the patrol patterns of Veon's guards. Lysara followed closely, her hand brushing against his when necessary, her golden hair catching the pale light of the city. She had begun to understand that this wasn't just a game. Danger was real, and they had to think fast. "How do you do it?" she whispered at one point. Joran glanced at her, a faint smile on his face. "We humans are good at improvising. We can't rely on technology alone, and we can't trust appearances, so we use what we have. Our brains, our creativity, our stubbornness. Lysara nodded, as though understanding for the first time that bravery was more than skill. It was the willingness to adapt when nothing went as planned. Their goal was the Hidden Palace, a secure building where loyalists to the Empress had taken refuge. It was far from the main city, nestled in a forest of glowing trees whose branches stretched like fingers into the sky. Getting there would not be easy. The conspirators' patrols were tight, and any misstep could reveal their presence. Yoran had a plan. Simple in human terms, but effective. They moved at night, sticking to narrow alleys and shadows. He had crafted makeshift cloaking devices from materials scavenged in the city, small discs that emitted a subtle distortion field, making them almost invisible to the alien sensors. Lysara carried a pack filled with datapads, codes, and maps, all of which she now knew how to read and interpret, thanks to Yoran's patient instruction. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by whispered directions. At one point, a squad of alien enforcers passed by, their armor glinting under the strange lights. Yoran froze, pulling Lysara down into a recess between two buildings. Her heart raced, but she trusted him completely. The squad passed without noticing them, and Yoran exhaled quietly. "See," he said. "Humans notice what others miss. Sometimes it's all you need to survive." They pressed on, and soon the city gave way to forests of bioluminescent trees. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of unknown plants. The forest was beautiful, but dangerous. Predatory creatures skulked in the shadows, and strange insects with glowing wings zipped past. Lysara tried to steady her nerves, but Yoran's calm presence reassured her. As they navigated through the forest, they stumbled upon a small village of alien outcasts. Humans were rare here, and the villagers were suspicious at first. Yoran approached carefully, using gestures and simple words to communicate. Within moments, the villagers realized they meant no harm. In fact, Yoran's quick thinking and kindness convinced them to help, providing a safe place to rest and supplies for the next leg of the journey. Lysara watched, fascinated. She had always known humans were adaptable, but seeing it in action was different. Yoran did not rely on weapons or intimidation. He relied on his mind, his charm, and his ability to connect, even across species. That night, by the glow of bioluminescent trees, Lysara asked a question that had been on her mind since they fled the palace. "Why do humans survive in the galaxy when we are not the strongest?" "Because we never give up. We keep thinking, keep trying. We turn disadvantages into advantages. The galaxy doesn't expect us to succeed, so when we do, it surprises everyone." Lysara smiled. She had begun to see him not just as a protector, but as a teacher, a guide, and perhaps even something more. She wanted to be more than a princess who relied on others. She wanted to be a leader who could act with intelligence and courage. Yoran was showing her how. The next day, they reached a hidden pass that led to the outskirts of the Hidden Palace. Here, they faced their first major challenge. A patrol of heavily armed mercenaries blocked the path. They were not soldiers loyal to any government. They were hired killers, ruthless and efficient. Yoran's mind worked quickly. He noticed the patrols were moving in predictable patterns. Using vines and small debris, he created an improvised distraction, sending one group chasing after a glowing mimic that resembled a small animal. Lysara helped, throwing rocks and triggering sound traps that Yoran had set. In moments, the patrols were disoriented, and the humans slipped past undetected. "You're incredible," Lysara whispered as they continued. "I don't think I would have survived without you." "And yet, you survived everything so far," Yoran said. "You're clever. We make a good team." The Hidden Palace was not just a building. It was a fortress, guards at every entrance, sensors that could detect life forms, and multiple layers of security designed to protect the Empress's loyalists. Yet Yoran was unfazed. He had studied maps, predicted guard rotations, and used a combination of stealth and improvisation to guide them to the inner courtyard. Once inside, they were greeted by familiar faces, human allies who had anticipated their arrival. The courtyard was quiet, but tension hung thick in the air. The conspiracy against the Empress had deep roots, and those who had stayed behind feared exposure. Yoran's arrival with the princess boosted morale immediately. Humans had a way of inspiring others, not just through strength, but through confidence and courage. Lysara's eyes widened as she met the leaders of the Loyalists. They looked at her with hope, relief, and a measure of awe. The princess, who had once been seen as naive, was now a symbol of resistance. And beside her, a human, Joran, was proving that one ordinary species could change the tide of an entire conflict. Over the next few days, Joran worked tirelessly. He coordinated strategies, deciphered intercepted communications, and trained the Loyalists in tactics that leveraged human ingenuity. They were not the most powerful, but they were clever, unpredictable, and adaptable. Every human method seemed to frustrate the alien conspirators. Lysara absorbed everything. She learned to read alien signals, navigate security systems, and anticipate threats. She also learned that humans were not infallible. They made mistakes, but they recovered quickly. That resilience impressed her more than anything else. She found herself respecting Joran in ways she hadn't expected, not just as a protector, but as a mind that could see patterns others missed. Then came the first direct attack. Mercenaries had discovered their location and tried to storm the hidden palace. Chaos erupted. Joran directed the defenses with calm precision, using human tactics that alien attackers could not predict. He created traps, coordinated ambushes, and led small strike teams to hold off the intruders. Lysara, for her part, acted with courage, sending messages, coordinating signals, and even helping set up defensive positions. By nightfall, the attackers had been repelled. The Loyalists cheered, but Joran did not relax. He knew this was only the beginning. The conspiracy was larger than they had imagined, and their enemies would not give up. In the quiet moments after the battle, Lysara approached Joran.
"You make humans seem unstoppable," she said softly.
Joran shook his head. "We're not unstoppable. We just never stop trying. That's what makes the difference." She looked at him with admiration, but also a sense of something deeper. In these trials, she had begun to see the possibilities of what humans could achieve, and what she could achieve with them. That night, as the city slept under twin moons, Joran and Lysara planned their next move. They would gather more allies, uncover the full scope of the conspiracy, and strike where their enemies least expected. The galaxy was filled with powerful species, advanced technology, and deadly warriors. But humans had something unique: the ability to think differently, to adapt, and to turn every disadvantage. Lysara realized something important. Her own life, her future crown, and the stability of the Empire depended not just on strength, but on wit, courage, and creativity. And beside her, Joran embodied all of that. The adventure was far from over. The shadows of conspiracy still stretched across Veon, and danger lurked around every corner. Yet for the first time, both Joran and Lysara felt a spark of hope, a sense that together they could survive anything. Humans might be underestimated across the stars, but here, in the heart of danger, they were unstoppable in ways no one expected. And so, with the first light of Veon's twin suns filtering through the crystalline towers, they prepared for what would come next. Battles, secrets, and challenges that would test every skill they possessed. The galaxy was watching, and humans were ready to surprise it once again. The palace was quiet now, but Joran knew it was only the calm before the storm. The conspiracy against the Empress ran deep, and the mercenaries they had fought so far were only the first wave. He walked through the crystalline corridors with Lysara at his side, both of them moving carefully, listening to the faint hum of the palace's energy systems. Every shadow seemed to hide a secret. Every flicker of light could be a trap. "We can't stay hidden forever," Joran said. "They will keep coming, and each attack will be smarter than the last."
"We have to be ready to fight back." Lysara nodded, her expression determined.
She had changed since their first day on Veon. No longer a bored and rebellious princess, she had become a capable strategist, learning quickly from Joran and applying her own instincts. "Then we strike before they expect it," she said. "We gather allies and we show them the humans are not so easy to defeat." Humans often underestimated their own potential, but Lysara had begun to see it, the power of cleverness, adaptability, and courage. That combination could turn the tide against any enemy, no matter how advanced or numerous. The first step was to contact loyalists across the planet. Joran used his knowledge of human ingenuity to hack into communication systems, sending coded messages that only trusted allies could decipher. Lysara watched closely, fascinated by his skill. "You make it seem simple," she said. "It's never simple," Joran replied. "It only looks simple because we adapt as we go." Within hours, groups of loyalists began arriving at the palace under the cover of night. Soldiers, engineers, and even a few alien allies who opposed the conspirators joined them. Joran quickly organized teams, assigning tasks based on each person's strengths. Humans had a way of seeing potential in others that aliens often overlooked, and Joran used it to maximum effect. Scouts reported a large force of mercenaries approaching from the north. Joran and Lysara reviewed the plan in the war room, a chamber filled with maps, screens, and holographic models of the city and palace. Lysara studied the layouts with him, pointing out weak spots in enemy positions. "You see?" Joran said quietly. "You already think like a human strategist. We predict, adapt, and respond faster than they expect." The battle began at dusk. The first wave of mercenaries arrived, confident and heavily armed. But Joran's strategy turned their confidence into confusion. Human-inspired traps, simple, clever, and unpredictable, slowed them down. Tripwires, sound diversions, and decoy holograms scattered the enemy, making them vulnerable to the Loyalists' counterattacks. Lysara proved her courage on the battlefield. She directed communications, guided reinforcements, and even used a plasma launcher she had been trained to operate. Her golden hair glowed under the fire of the city's energy shields, and the Loyalists began to see her as more than a princess. They saw her as a leader. Joran moved through the battlefield with calm precision. Every action was calculated, every decision aimed at maximizing advantage with minimal risk. He used alien technology in ways the attackers hadn't imagined, turning their own tools against them. By the end of the night, the mercenary force had been routed. Their numbers were smaller than the next wave would be, but the victory boosted the morale of every defender in the palace. In the quiet aftermath, Lysara and Joran stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of Veon reflected off the crystalline buildings, a peaceful scene that belied the danger still looming.
"You're remarkable," Lysara said softly. "Not just for humans, but for anyone."
"You see possibilities that others miss." Joran shook his head. "I just do what humans have always done. We survive because we refuse to give up, because we think differently, and because we act when others hesitate." Lysara smiled, but her mind was already planning the next steps. They couldn't wait for attacks. They had to take action before the conspirators regrouped. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. Joran and Lysara organized scouting missions, reinforced defenses, and gathered intelligence. They learned that the conspirators had infiltrated high levels of Veon's government and were planning a full-scale coup to install a puppet ruler loyal to outside interests. Every moment was critical. Joran taught Lysara to read alien behavior patterns, interpret subtle signals, and predict enemy strategies. She absorbed everything quickly, her mind sharpening with every lesson. She began making suggestions, some of which even Joran hadn't considered, proving that humans weren't the only species capable of clever thinking. Sometimes it was the combination of human and human-adjacent ingenuity that worked best. One evening, a message arrived that changed everything. The conspirators had captured a key ally, a diplomat who held critical intelligence about the coup. Time was short. Joran and Lysara had to act quickly. They formulated a daring rescue plan, relying on stealth, deception, and human ingenuity. Under the cover of darkness, they infiltrated the enemy's base. Joran used a combination of distraction devices and improvised tools to bypass security systems, while Lysara guided the team through complex corridors. When they reached the diplomat, they discovered a trap, guards waiting in ambush. Joran's mind raced. He grabbed a nearby pipe and used it to trigger a weight-sensitive floor panel, sending several guards tumbling into a containment pit. Lysara took control of the security interface, locking doors behind them and redirecting patrols. The human-led team moved like a well-oiled machine, overcoming every obstacle with creativity and speed. By dawn, the diplomat was free, and the team returned safely to the hidden palace. The Loyalists celebrated, but Joran and Lysara knew this was only a temporary victory. The main conspirators were still at large, and their plan to seize power was nearly complete. In the quiet that followed, Lysara approached Joran. "I can see it now," she said.
"I understand why humans are underestimated. You don't rely on strength or numbers. You rely on thought, courage, and adaptability.
That's why you win."
Joran smiled, though his eyes were serious.
"And that's why you can't underestimate yourself. You have the skills, the intelligence, and the courage to lead.
Together, we can stop them. As the twin moons rose over Veon, Joran and Lysara reviewed the final stages of their plan. They would strike at the heart of the conspiracy, expose the traitors, and secure the throne for the rightful rulers. It would be dangerous, perhaps the most dangerous mission they had faced. But humans thrived in danger. The night before the attack, Lysara confided in Joran. "I never thought babysitting would lead to this. I thought you'd just keep me safe, but you've shown me so much more." "And you've shown me too," Joran said quietly. "Humans are clever, but sometimes we forget that courage and heart are just as important. You have both." They shared a moment of quiet understanding. Neither spoke of fear, only of determination. The galaxy was watching, and the humans, or at least one human, were about to prove that cleverness and courage could change the course of empires. When the sun rose, they moved out. Joran led the team, Lysara at his side, each step precise, each action calculated. They encountered traps, ambushes, and unexpected obstacles, but the combination of human ingenuity and princess intelligence kept them ahead of the enemy. Every move was a lesson in adaptability. Finally, they reached the main chamber where the conspirators had gathered. The room was heavily guarded, filled with alien soldiers and advanced technology. Yet, Joran's plan unfolded flawlessly. He created diversions, manipulated security systems, and led the Loyalists in a coordinated strike. Lysara played her part perfectly, intercepting communications and guiding reinforcements. By the end of the confrontation, the conspirators were defeated. Some fled, some were captured, and their plans were in ruins. The hidden palace stood victorious, a symbol of human ingenuity and courage. As the dust settled, Lysara turned to Joran. "We did it," she said, awe in her voice. "I couldn't have imagined achieving all this without you." Joran shook his head. "You did it too. You've grown into a leader who can command respect, inspire loyalty, and make smart decisions. Humans are adaptable, but humans alone cannot win wars. They need allies who are willing to think and act with them." "That's what you are!" For the first time, Lysara realized the full scope of what they had accomplished. The galaxy might be filled with powerful empires, advanced technology, and deadly species, but humans, clever, stubborn, and brave, could turn the tide of any battle when they refused to be underestimated. The adventure was far from over, but the first true victory had been won. The palace was secure, the conspirators defeated, and the Empress's influence strengthened. Joran and Lysara had proven that humans could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast almost any enemy. And as they stood together, watching the first rays of the twin suns touch the crystalline towers of Veon. A new understanding passed between them. Survival was only the beginning. They had the power to shape the galaxy itself. The hidden palace was alive with celebration, yet beneath the surface, the galaxy still watched closely. The conspirators had been defeated, their plans exposed, and the Empress's influence was stronger than ever. But for Yoran and Lisa Ra, the real work had only begun. They had to secure the Empire, restore stability, and ensure that Veon would remain loyal. Yoran moved through the palace halls with confidence. He had spent weeks fighting, planning, and improvising, yet nothing had prepared him for the political reality of victory. The loyalists cheered, but many nobles whispered, jealous of a human who had influenced the outcome of events they themselves could not control. He ignored them. Humans thrived in challenges that required ingenuity, not title or rank. Lysera walked beside him, her posture regal, her eyes bright. She had learned much from Yoran. The importance of observation, patience, and timing. But she had also learned about courage, about making choices when the stakes were highest, and about the value of trust. She now understood the weight of leadership, and for the first time, she felt ready to wear it. The Empress arrived in person the next morning, her presence commanding. Her silver hair caught the sunlight streaming through the crystalline windows, and her gaze swept over both the loyalists and the human who had changed everything. Joran Te, she said, her voice calm but powerful. You were sent to babysit my daughter, and yet you have returned not just with her safe, but with victory, allies, and proof that humans are capable of more than we ever imagined.
Your Majesty, I only did what humans do best: think, adapt, and act when necessary. The Empress's lips curved into a faint smile.
Indeed, you have done more than expected.
And you have proven that courage and creativity can rival strength and technology.
She turned to Lysara.
And you, my daughter, have learned that leadership is not inherited, but earned. You have grown into a capable heir, worthy of the crown you will soon wear. She glanced at Yoran, who met her eyes with a quiet, understanding smile. Together, they had overcome enemies, navigated dangers, and outwitted conspirators. It was a moment of triumph for both of them. The Empress then addressed the council, formally declaring that Lysara would assume her role as heir, her position strengthened by the loyalty she had earned and the actions she had taken. Joran remained quietly at her side, aware that his own role in this victory would not go unnoticed. As the council sessions ended, the city outside celebrated. Citizens came to witness the rise of their new leader, cheering for the princess who had faced danger with courage and intelligence. Yoran and Lysara moved through the streets protected by loyal guards, and both felt the weight of what had been achieved. They had secured not just the palace but the trust of the people, the loyalty of allies, and the stability of a planet critical to the Empire. In private, Lysara turned to Joran. You've changed everything, she said softly. Not just for me, but for everyone. You've shown that humans can make a difference even when everyone expects failure.
And you've changed too, Yoran replied. You've shown that leadership is about courage, not just birthright.
Together, we've made the impossible happen. The next few days were filled with formalities, audience with officials, ceremonies, and meetings with alien envoys who had watched the conflict with interest. Everywhere Joran went, whispers followed. The human who outsmarted the conspirators, the human who taught a princess to lead, the human who had proven that ingenuity and courage were as powerful as armies. Then came the final ceremony. Lysara would be crowned as the heir apparent. The hall was filled with dignitaries, ambassadors, and the citizens of Veon, all eager to witness history. Crystals reflected sunlight in a dazzling array, and banners fluttered in the palace's high chambers. Joran stood beside Lysara, both of them aware that this was the culmination of everything they had fought for. The Empress approached, holding the crown that symbolized authority and responsibility. Lysara, she said, her voice echoing through the hall. You have proven yourself.
You are ready to lead. Place this crown upon your head and accept the duties of the heir.
Lysara stepped forward, her hands steady, her mind clear. She placed the crown upon her head, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably. She turned to the crowd, her voice strong. "I will lead with courage, wisdom, and justice. I will honor my people, my allies, and the humans who have taught me that ingenuity and bravery can shape the fate of worlds." The crowd erupted into cheers. Joran felt a surge of pride, not for himself, but for what they had achieved together. Humans were often underestimated, dismissed as fragile or naive. Yet here, they had proven that clever thinking, courage, and determination could change the course of events across planets. After the ceremony, Lysara found a quiet moment with Joran.
"There's one more thing," she said, her voice hesitant but sincere. "You've been by my side through everything. You've protected me, taught me, and faced danger without hesitation." I want you to stay. Not as a diplomat or guardian, but with me.
Joran blinked, surprised. "You mean, yes?" she said, smiling.
"As my partner, someone I trust, someone I care for."
Will you stay, not just with the crown, but with me? Joran felt a warmth he hadn't expected. All the battles, planning, and ingenuity had led to this moment.
"I will," he said quietly. "With everything I have, I will stay." The announcement was met with surprise from some court members, but admiration from many others. It was unconventional, yes, but humans were known for their unexpected ways, and this union symbolized more than personal connection. It symbolized trust, loyalty, and the merging of courage and intelligence. In the following days, preparations began for a formal celebration of the alliance. Aliens and humans alike attended, intrigued by the unprecedented union. The palace had never been so alive, filled with laughter, music, and joy. Joran and Lysara walked side by side, their presence a symbol of partnership that could withstand danger, politics, and intrigue. Yet, even amid celebration, they remained vigilant. The galaxy was vast, and threats would always exist. But they had learned that together, combining human ingenuity with leadership and courage, they could face anything. The victory on Veon was proof of that truth. At night, on the balcony overlooking the glowing city, Lysara rested her hand on Joran's. "Do you think they'll ever understand humans?" she asked. Joran looked out over the sparkling streets. "Some will try, but most will always underestimate us."
"That's fine. It gives humans an advantage."
"We survive, adapt, and overcome because nobody expects it."
I like that. And I like that you taught me to see it too."
Together they watched the twin moons rise, casting silver light over the palace towers. Humans were not the strongest species, nor the most technologically advanced, but their courage, creativity, and determination had changed the fate of Veon, and perhaps the galaxy itself. In that moment, the adventure that began with a simple babysitting assignment had reached its extraordinary conclusion. Joran, the human who had been underestimated, had returned not only with the princess safe, but with a crown on her head, a throne secured, and a future that promised partnership, respect, and love. The galaxy would remember this story, not just of a princess and her human guardian, but of what humans could achieve when they refused to be ignored. They had turned danger into triumph, fear into courage, and simplicity into brilliance. And in doing so, they proved that sometimes the smallest and most underestimated species could make the largest difference. As the celebrations continued, Joran and Lysara stood together, knowing that their bond was more than political. It was trust, respect, and shared adventure. They had survived impossible odds, outsmarted enemies, and proven that courage and ingenuity mattered more than strength alone. And in the end, that was the human advantage, an advantage that could change the stars themselves.